Okay, everybody, welcome and thank you so much for coming. I'm very excited to share with you today something I think can really help your game. It might actually be a little bit of a paradigm on how you should be thinking when you're playing. And if I had to talk and summarize this speech in basically one word, the word would be sabotage. Sabotage, as it relates to tennis, is a person's ability to take your opponent and make them play worse. And this is why I think it's so important. For 33 years of teaching, I've always noticed that when one of my players is behind, and I put myself in this category as a player, as a young player, I did the same thing. So let's play this scenario. I'm playing an opponent, and that person is playing at this level, and for the moment, I'm behind. This is where I'm playing. Well, when that happens, and it happens a fair amount, most players that are behind only have one option in their head. They literally only think of one thing, which is, I have to raise my level. I have to play better. And that's difficult to do. Most of us don't come out and say, well, I'm going to play and I'm going to play 80%. But if I need to, then I'll raise my level. The chances are this level that you're at here today is your best because we're all trying to win right from the get-go. So another way of thinking this, and this is very important, is that instead of raising my level, which is typical to do, and by the way that unfolds typically for most people is they try to hit more winners, they try to play more aggressively, and if they're halfway decent, they probably do hit a few more winners, but they hit equally as many losers, and they can't really change their level that much inside of a match. So the other way to think about this is to look at your opponent and do things that will lower their skill level. So now you're back in the match and you have a chance to win. That is what I call sabotage. Now, people say, sabotage, okay, sounds good. If you ask people a little audit, like how many times do you try to do this versus this, I find that 90% of the time people are trying to do this, okay? So they're interested. Okay, I hear you. I think that's a cool idea, sabotage, but how? How do I actually do that? How can I do it? Well, the good thing is we don't have to invent sabotage because as long as tennis has been played, there are three classic things that are perfect sabotage tools. And we all know them because when I say them to you, you're going to think of players like that and you're going to say, yes, those players are a nightmare. So let me just show you a couple of them. Number one are players that slice a lot. They hit a lot of slices and they keep the ball low and they keep the ball short, and that has the effect of keeping it out of our comfortable strike zone. So it's a very good sabotage technique. That's just one. Another one is a player that hits drop shots. They drop shot, they bring you in, then they lob you, and they're yanking you back and forth in the court. And that's a very difficult way to play against, and it's also a great sabotage. And then the last one is the dreaded moonballer, the player that sends consistently high, loopy balls with no power, and you end up hitting balls out of your comfortable strike zone, and they make you play worse. All right, so here's what I can tell you after all the years I've learned from teaching tennis. I've never had a student, adult or otherwise, come to me and say, oh, Coach Jorge, listen, today I see the draw and I have to play this moonballer. Man, I'm pumped. I can't wait. I roll on moonballer. Never heard that. I never heard a person come off the court and say, oh my gosh, the next round I got to play this guy who's a drop shotter. Oh, I just can't wait to play them. I love playing drop shotters, or I love playing slicer hackers. It's just not something you hear because they're traditionally very difficult styles to play. So those are three classic ways that you can do some sabotage. But I'm going to show you a couple of these. So I'm going to have my hitters come out. And this time what I think I'm going to do is show you how I actually teach players how to do this. So we're going to start out with slicing. So I'm going to have Adam and Keith going to be my hitters here. And guys, the first thing I'm going to do is let's assume for a second that the players don't know how to slice. So just start with the assumption that I have to first teach them how to slice. These guys obviously do. But if I was going to teach you how to slice, the beginnings of that as your sabotage technique, I would probably have you start short court and have you go with a rally where everything is underspin. And all I'm going to be looking for as a coach is if they got the proper grip, which is a continental grip. And then slowly but surely, if they handle this first phase, I'll back them up a little bit more. So guys, let's back up 2 or 3 steps. Now these guys are going to go through this little learning mode for slice in a matter of about 30 seconds. But obviously it could take a lot longer. It could take 30 minutes, could take 30 hours, depending on the student. All right, then all the way back to the baseline, and this is how I would begin. So let's just hold the ball there for a second. So that's how I would teach someone to do a slice if they're totally new to it. Just give them short court. I don't think it's very effective to start them all the way back and have them learn it from there. That's where I think they get a lot of chopping and too much excessive movement. So guys, now let's assume that you have it. You actually have this skill that you can deploy. You know how to do slices. So now I'm going to teach you when. All right, so Adam's going to play, and what I'm going to do is set up the situation. Let's pretend that Adam is down. He's down 1-4 in the first set. He's playing. He's doing his best. It's just he's fallen behind. So now he's changing gears. He says, look, it's not about me anymore. I have to find a way to think about that side of the court and lower their level. So I want you to rally. And Adam, I want you to slice when it's appropriate, not every single time. And then we'll talk about that. So go ahead and rally. So Adam is actually looking for chances to slice. Now, a lot of times it might happen more often on one side or the other. For example, a lot of people can slice more comfortably off the backhand side. So maybe on this particular version of Sabotage, you guys can keep rallying as I talk, he might do more Sabotage off that backhand side because he likes it. So again, the idea is if Adam slices more and more times, the ball's going to be staying lower, and the strike zone level for the opponent is going to be lower, down below the knees perhaps, and we know that traditionally that's a very good way to make people feel uncomfortable. It lowers their level. Now, does it work 100% of the time? No, but it works quite a bit. I find that 80% of the time Sabotage techniques work pretty good. So if we just pause for a second, that was just an example. Slicing has a very good effect of lowering people's level. Just ask yourself as a player, when you play against someone that slices, do you love it? Is that something that you prefer? And 8 out of 10 players will say, no, I'd rather them hit hard, and I'd rather be able to hit the ball up by my torso, not so much below my knees. But now I want to go to the second one. The second one's super important. It's the one we're going to finish with, and it's drop shots. So in today's game, you don't have to look very far to realize that 90% of the play happens from the baseline. Singles players play from the baseline predominantly. So one of the things that I really like about the drop shot is that just by definition, the drop shot itself, assuming you have it or you can deploy it, is going to be a difficult deal for almost everybody you play. So Adam, let's come back up here. I want you guys to play. We're going to go back to the assumption that my player doesn't know how to hit a drop shot. So I'm going to show you real quickly how I teach him. So I want you to come up with a no man's land. And Keith, I want you to hit him a ball. And Adam, I want you to hit a ball so it hits and it goes up to your hand. You're going to catch it. So this is the little quick progression. And do that several times, guys. All we're doing here is showing Adam, or he's learning how much to open his face, how far back it should be, and how tight his grip tension should be. In the beginning, Adam's pretty good here. He can do this well. In the beginning, it's not uncommon for people to have that just go flying. The ball hits, and they don't have any ability to absorb power or take power off the shot. They only ever added power to the shot. So this is a really good way to do it. So now, Adam, what I want you to do, instead of catching it, I just want you to send it barely over. So go ahead and do that. So it's just a progression. This is part 2, and he's sending it over. That happened to be literally perfect. Go again. And you'll see different levels of evolution. Sometimes they'll land short, sometimes they'll land deep, but this is a skill. All right, so this is how I like to teach the drop shot. But more important now, we're going to learn how to deploy the drop shot. So we're going to play. Again, the assumption is Adam is behind in this match. He's got to try to find a way to make Keith over there play worse. We decided that we're going to try this as an option. Now, you can't just drop shot any time you want because you have to be smart about it. If Keith hits a blazing shot off the baseline here, that's probably not the right shot. So anytime the ball lands on or in front of this line, that might be a time to do it, particularly if you find like it's a softer hit shot. So I'm going to watch you play, and if you hit a drop shot, Keith, I want you to go after it, and I want you to play the point out from there out. All right, and I'm going to just kind of help you judge when and if you're doing it at the right times. All right, so here's the scenario. Adam's behind. Keith is rolling him. He has to try something different. Well, that happened to be a perfect winner. So you can see Keith, caught by surprise, and that was literally about the perfect drop shot, is now doing something different. We already know that he can play pretty well from the baseline because that's how we got behind in the first place. So now Adam is like not going to play that game anymore. He's decided I have to change it up. The alternative is what a lot of people do with Adam's player, the guy here on my side. He says, well, I'm just going to keep playing from the baseline. I'm just going to do it better. I'm just going to hit more winners and just raise my level. And I'm telling you, that's very, very difficult to pull off. So drop shots, let's do a couple more, guys. Drop shots happens to be one of the key ways to have Sabotage deployed. And if you don't have a drop shot, this is probably the #1 wish I would have for all my players. All right? Oh, look at this point. All right, guys, so there you have it. We just covered a couple of classic sabotage skills that you can deploy designed to make your opponent play worse. And as I talk to my own students about this, this is probably the analogy that I can help you master it the best. So really, as tennis players, we send the ball back and forth, right? Tennis is a game of exchange. So in a sense, we're like human ball machines. When we send the ball that way, we're human ball machines. We're just sending it constantly. And like a ball machine, we should have a whole bunch of settings. I could take a ball machine and put it right here and send the ball that way all kinds of ways. I could loop it that way. I could send a bullet. I could send a short ball. I could send a spinny ball. I could send a backspin ball. So think about yourself as a human ball machine. What I don't want you to do is be worried so much about your favorite settings. It's okay to have your favorite factory settings. Many of you will say, I like to hit hard. But if that's the only setting you have, just like a ball machine with one setting, it's fairly useless. As a player, you need to think of yourself as the human ball machine and be concerned with what you're sending that way. It's okay in the beginning of the match to play your best, and I want to just summarize, make sure you understand that if you're winning the match, you're not doing sabotage. You should always keep that plan going. It's only when you're behind and you find yourself in this situation, if you could be the right type of ball machine, sending balls that way that are a little bit smarter, not so much about you, more about that side of the court, I think you'll have a lot of ability to lower people's games and maybe take a match that you're losing and go ahead and win it. So I hope that's helpful to you. Sabotage, please take an audit. If you don't have any sabotage skills in your game now, I encourage you strongly to start adding some.